So welcome, Bill Warner. We are very happy and have you here now. Your book, Polish version, is just coming out these days about the women in the doctrine of Islam. What made you write this book?
When I read the Quran and the Hadith and the Sira, the life of Muhammad, I was struck by how much information there was about women. And it fell into three categories. Part of the verses in the Quran elevate the woman as being, as a mother, she's the best of people. Then in another part of it, you'll find some more verses in which women are equal to men on Judgment Day. That is, they're all responsible for their actions. And then there's many more verses which basically subjugate women. The one that was very strange to me, I'm a father with two daughters, and my wife breastfed our children. And in the Quran, it says that the man will tell the woman when it's time to stop nursing the children. And I was like, what? Why would I ever, as a man, ever think I could tell a woman when to stop nursing the child? So it was verses like this that made me go through and sort of categorize the different kinds of verses. So therefore, we have verses which elevate women, we have verses which make women equal, and then we have verses that subjugate women. The important message here is all of them are true, but the majority of the verses about women subjugate them, such as the breastfeeding example I gave you. So anyway, I decided that we needed to bring this forth because it's very important to me how women are treated. And so I just mentioned I have two daughters, and I would never want them abused. So these pages, these verses just said to me, someone needs to make this clear for the reading public.
The new book that's coming out now in Poland is about the women in the doctrine of Islam. When you first discovered this topic, what was your feelings and why did you decide to put it in one volume, only this topic?
It's so important. How women are treated is important to me. In that sense, I'm a feminist, not in the current sense of feminism, but in the sense of wanting the best for all women. And so we need to understand the doctrine of Islam. Here's another reason. Sometimes women who are kafir, who are non-Muslims, date Muslim men. They need to understand that there's a place for them in Islam, and it's all laid out in the doctrine. And so they need to understand that if you marry a Muslim, the children will be Muslim, even if you're a Christian. And if there's a divorce, the children will go to the father. So there are many disadvantages to being a woman. And if it's all laid out clearly, some Western women may say, you know, I don't want to date Muslim men and I don't want to be their wife because if I do, these things are allowed to happen to me. So I think we need to understand all of Islam, but this part about women, I think, is something we need to understand the most.
Why is it important to separate the political parts of Islam from the religious part?
Well, because the religious part is of no concern to me. I call the religious part the part that deals with avoiding hell and going to paradise. I wish everybody the best in life and in death as well. So, but the religious part, which are the 5 pillars primarily, does not affect us. So what I want to deal with a part of Islam is that affects us. For instance, the part about you can beat your wife. Well, that affects us as they're going to live in our countries. So I think we need to set the religious part aside and only deal with the part that impacts us. The reason that it's important to set the religious part aside is that most people see Islam just as a religion and they go, well, we shouldn't bother with the religion. And I actually agree with you, but we should bother with the part of Islam. Islamic doctrine is both political and religious. So let's just deal with the political part and avoid the religious part altogether.
When you talk about political Islam, you usually talk about the part of the doctrine which concerns the non-Muslims. Can you say some examples? Because what you mentioned now about wife beating and what commitment has a Muslim woman in Islam, it's actually an indirect effect on us, on kafirs, the non-Muslims. Can you say some examples from the doctrine regarding women, which is exactly dealing with directly the non-Muslims?
There's one part of the doctrine which we need to take care of, which we're seeing in Europe. We need to understand that the doctrine of Islam allows a Muslim to rape a kafir non-Muslim woman if she's under his control and he does it for the purpose of jihad. So sex slavery and rape are included in the doctrine of women. For instance, the Quran is very clear that a woman, once she's brought into capture, the phrase is used, those whom your right hand possesses, that once they have that they can rape women on the street, and it's an act of Islam. We may see it as a crime, but they see it as the fulfillment of the doctrine of Islam. So this very much impacts us. And I think we need to understand this, that when we see something like this for sex slaves with Islamic State, that is Islam. Muhammad had sex slaves. As a matter of fact, one of his favorite sex slaves was a Christian woman from Egypt.
So actually, how would you define Islam? Because all these examples you're mentioning, you know, they sound like an extremist point of view of Islam. But how would you actually define Islam if not through the behavior of a Muslim?
What we need to do is to see the behavior of Muhammad, not the behavior of Muslims, because there are three books which determine the doctrine of Islam: the Quran, which everyone's heard of, but then there's the Hadith, and which are his traditions, and the Sira, his life. And the Quran has 89 verses which say that Muhammad is the perfect Muslim. So what he did is perfect behavior for all Muslims for all time. So these are the matters we need to tend to. Islamic doctrine is found in Quran, Sira, Hadith. Islamic doctrine is not found in the way a Muslim acts.
So how would you explain that many Muslim women actually saying that Islam is something very good for them? Why is it that they have a completely different point of view on the doctrine?
Well, there are some good things for women in Islam. Number one, it encourages families. And it also, the woman is taken care of in the sense that she stays at home and the husband brings home a paycheck. So there's a certain security in that. There are some kind of women which prosper under this form of living, and then others do not. For instance, some women may not feel at all that wearing the hijab is a matter of importance, but so they just do it. But there may be other women who say, I don't want to wear a hijab. So I think we need to see that Islam offers both security and confinement. And so different people will find this in different ways as to how it affects them. We also have to understand that if the woman is used to being subjugated, she may not speak well against things that don't please her anyway. Because if she says them, remember, she's living in the house with a man who can disagree with her and if necessary, beat her.
Your field of expertise is Islam, and especially political Islam. Please tell us, in Poland, which is a Christian country, what we can do with this information. Why is it important at all to know about the Quran or the political part of Islam?
It's very important for this reason. When Muslims come into our nation, they want to use their laws. Let's take wife beating as an example. Both the Quran and the Hadith allow the husband to beat the wife. Now, I call this political because it affects us, the kafir. In Poland, are you going to make the decision that if a woman comes to the emergency room in the hospital and she's been beaten, if she's a Muslim, the husband is not prosecuted, but if she's not a Muslim, the husband is prosecuted? So we need to say that Islam makes demands upon us. And I, for one, am a true feminist in the sense that I think that our laws should protect all women. That is, if Muslims are going to move into America or Poland, I don't think they have the right to beat their wives, even though the Quran says they do.
And what is your aim of this book? What would you like from your audience? Like what they should understand better?
I think they should understand that Islam has a very clear doctrine. There's something that has happened in this century that has never happened before. Until this time, Islamic doctrine was so complicated and made it such difficult to study. It was only studied by professionals. What has happened today is that all the doctrine of Islam has been made easily available to anybody. I mean, this is very important so that we can make our own decisions. We don't have to listen to our leaders about Islam. We don't have to listen to Muslims about Islam. We can listen to what Muhammad and Allah say. And this has been made easy to understand. Actually, I found the doctrine somewhat fascinating. It's like a science fiction world.
All right. And what is your approach or methodology? Because as I understood, you basically made these doctrinal texts and sources understandable for a wider audience. So can you say a few words about your methodology and how you help us lay readers to learn more about the doctrine of Islam?
Well, one of the things is I look at Islam as a complete system, and I answer some questions which make it contradictory. If you're studying something which is contradictory, you find it hard to remember and understand. So one of the things that I discovered in my study of the doctrine of Islam is what I call dualism, because everybody has heard some good verses of the Quran and everybody's heard some bad verses. And they say, well, which one is true? One's good, one's bad. Here's the thing, in Islamic logic, they are both equally true. We need to understand that Islam is dualistic, and so the good parts and the bad parts coexist with each other, and one is not more real than the other. There's not an Islam in which you can just deal with the good parts, the religious part, and avoid the other. It's all there. And so this, I think, makes the study of it much simpler, in which you understand, well, it's a system which is contradictory, but that's the heart of the doctrine. It is contradictory, and it cannot be resolved according to Western logic.
When you dealt with the doctrine and you realized how women are treated, and all the stories came up from Muhammad's life story and from the Quran, what was your personal impression and motivation after you reading all of these?
Well, my personal life is this. I was raised by my mother and my grandmother. So my mother worked in a shoe factory and my grandmother raised the children. She was a very strong, independent person. She never complained. She was never a victim. She was truly an independent woman. And so this was sort of my early childhood model of women, is that they should be capable of being strong and independent. And then when I came to the study of Islam and saw that women are subjugated, I was just like, my personal self inside revolted against this. It's like, this is not what I want. And so therefore it led me to the study of pulling out the subject of women in Islam so that it could present it, because I love strong, independent women. What can I say?
Hmm. Yeah, these are beautiful values of our societies in Europe and in America, definitely. Since the 60s, we actually achieved a lot as women, and possibly it's a good idea to save our freedom for our future generations as well.
That's my hope.
What would be your message for the Polish audience, or where should we use your books in Poland, and what is your vision about what this can book change in the Polish society?
The Polish society is living in a Europe in which there are many Muslims coming in due to the foolishness of their leaders. So they need to understand what the problem is. It's not enough to feel about a subject. That is, you may feel you don't like it, but we need to have knowledge, because with knowledge we can argue and reason. I'm a scientist. I'm a very rational man, and what I want to do is to bring rationality to the discovery of Islam. And so this also can be studied by just the ordinary person. You become your own expert. That's what my goal is.
That's lovely. Thank you very much for being with us, and hope to see you soon personally in Poland.
Thank you so much, Nikki.